All right, now joining us in studio, I've known him for years. He's one of San Diego's best financial advisors. He gives us a wealth of knowledge every time he comes on the show, no pun intended. And he's become a great friend of ours. Dave Elhoff joins us in studio. Dave, welcome to the Storyteller Set. First time we've had you over here.
Yes, it's very nice.
It's nice, isn't it?
It's a little different.
Comfortable.
I like it. Very comfortable.
Well, since you're on the
Absolutely.
Storyteller Set, former Navy pilot, countless people financial advice. Give us a good story. You got to start there.
We got all kinds of stories. I tell you what, Craig, what I like to tell people to get them to start thinking a layer deeper is that Yellen came out a couple days ago and said they're not going to raise rates. But you know what, folks, it really doesn't matter. And the reason why it really doesn't matter is because the interest rates are going to do what they're going to do. The stock market's going to do what it's going to do. The real estate market's going to do what it's going to do. And in the meantime, you're going to continue doing the things you're doing. The problem is that some of the things that you're doing, you're transferring wealth unknowingly and unnecessarily, Craig. And so what I ask people to do, how much money would it take? 100,000, 250,000, or 500,000 that we could possibly find because of the way you're doing things. Now, how am I going to do that?
You mean over the course of time?
Over the course of time, absolutely. Over your lifetime, would 250,000 additional money be a factor for you, or is it 500,000? You might ask, how am I going to do that? Well, you're transferring wealth unknowingly and unnecessarily, and what I do is I help you find those transfers and recapture them. Now, is there a guarantee?
What's the biggest waste that people have in their day-to-day?
Taxes.
Right? Straight up taxes.
Straight up, right off the bat, it's taxes. But I got to tell you folks, too, there's no cookie-cutter deal. There's a lot of financial entertainers out there, and I'm going to allow them to remain nameless, that are going to tell you a cookie-cutter way of doing things. This is what you got to do. You need to do this, you need to do that. People don't do it. It's against their nature. So what I have found is that I'm going to try and find that money for you with no additional out-of-pocket expense. Now, can I guarantee that? Absolutely not. My compliance people would be all over me to say that, because each one of you is different. There's not a single person out there that is doing their finances exactly like their neighbor. They could be identical twins and they're going to have different finances. So it really depends upon what you're doing. And is it worth a 20-minute conversation with me to determine whether or not you've got some of these transfers taking place? What are some of them?
Yeah,
taxes is a big one.
So taxes is a big one.
Insurance premiums a big one. The way you purchase things is a huge one. Whether you are, you got to understand, folks, no matter how you purchase something, whether you pay cash or whether you borrow money to do it, you're paying or losing interest. So there's a wealth transfer that takes place there, Craig. That's a big one over time. A person that saves up and pays cash, they drain the tank, and they've lost their position on the compound interest curve because you drained the tank.
So a lot of what you're talking about, Dave, is we're talking about an overall plan.
Strategies.
Right? So this is, someone's going to meet with you, but you're trying to set up, when you're talking about these bigger numbers, a lifelong plan, looking at things like kids' college fund, buying a house, retirement down the road. But it is a long-term plan. But how do you start, right? How do you take all this information that you're discussing here today and say, all right, well, I don't want to waste money on interest. I don't want to pay more in taxes than I need to. I don't want to have a higher insurance premium. Sounds like a lot of work, right? So how do you get started? Nobody likes to waste money, though, but how do you manage the day-to-day, being a mom, dad, having a job, and getting started?
Very simple, Craig. Number one, people who are successful are willing to do things that people who are not successful don't want to do. And that takes work.
Okay, so you're admitting that, hey, look, this takes a little bit of work.
Absolutely. It is going to take some. What people do is they make decisions one at a time with different people under different circumstances. And what they're doing, they're looking at tactical. They're looking at today, short term. They're not thinking long term or strategic. You need to think strategic. What is this decision you're making today? How's that affect the decisions you made 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago? Nobody looks at their former decisions. They continue trucking down the path of life, not realizing that they have some excessive wealth transfers that are taking place, and many times that's unnecessary. And if it's unnecessary, then we can go in, recapture, and put it to work. What would it take? It'd take just identifying some of these decisions we made in the past because you haven't revisited them. that they continue to expand the transfers of wealth. And if we can stop one little thing over your lifetime, it could equate hundreds of thousands of dollars. But it does take work, and that's what it is. If you look at a successful person.
So the place to start is put it on the to-do list and do
Absolutely.
it.
Put it on the
yeah.
to-do list. And the nice thing about my system, Craig, is this, is that they put their financial data on a model that I have, and they'll be able to see every financial decision they've ever made or thinking about making on one screen, and we can print that out for them, and they can see everything that's taken place in their financial world today on one screen. Not 50 pages of boilerplate, not columns of numbers, but input, output. This is where you're going to be in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. It's a financial simulator that I can show them, just like we go through flight simulators before planning a flight. We got a financial simulator, and we can go through the
former
emergencies.
Navy pilot talking right
Absolutely.
there. You know, I've sat down with Dave, and I've hopped on his computer with him, and it's pretty cool how you can be interactive with it. One of the questions I had was I have a second mortgage on one of my investment properties, and we were talking about, well, does it make sense to try and get that thing paid off or to invest? And he said, well, let's just play the numbers. You didn't even want to answer it, so we dove right in. So Dave offers a financial kit. It's free for any of our viewers of The American Dream. You should reach out. You can go to elhoffwealth.com, the best website. Go to elhoffwealth.com. You can visit me at craigsewing.com. You can even text me if you want a free financial kit. He'll give it to you. Our number is 846-9333. Of course, that's 619 right here in San Diego, 846-9333. Dave, wealth and knowledge.
Great to be here.
Appreciate you
Craig.
coming on the show. Good to see you again.